Welcome to this presentation on AboutCode open source project for the Google Summer of Code 2022. So our plan for today is we'll go through a quick introduction of the presenters, and then I'll be presenting the overall project, and then we will present each of the key project and IDs in sequence. Then we'll go through what we expect from you as aspiring contributors and how you can actually submit a good proposal. And last, what you can expect from us. All right, so I am Philippe Ombredan, and let me share my video for a second so you can look at me. Stop sharing. And Eyan, maybe you want to just show your face for a second and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I am Ayan. I work at AboutCode and work on scancode-toolkit and its package and license detection specifically. And I also look after some of the docs that we maintain. That's it.
Great. Tushar?
Actually, I can't show my face because lighting issues there, but
That's okay.
yeah. So I am Tushar Goyal. I work with XP. I work on VulnerableCode and fetch code. So, and I also maintain package URL and universe. So yeah. So it will be great summer working with you guys.
Great. Ritik?
Hey, I'm Ritik, and I'm maintaining and working with VulnerableCode and a little bit of Universe as well. And I'll be helping present the part of VulnerableCode here.
Great. Thank you, guys. So let me share my screen now and go back to screen sharing so we can display the slides. All right, so we're getting back to the slide presentation. So AboutCode projects. The challenge we're trying to tackle is that we're building today pretty much software like Lego, like bricks that we assemble together in larger software systems. And we're using ever more software packages to do that, mostly free and open source software for us. And a couple of years ago, you could see typical application with 10 to 100 components. Now it's 100 to thousands or tens of thousands at times. So there's a lot of it. And it's super easy to download and install. The problem is that because it's so easy to download and install, we don't always know where it's coming from. We don't always know what license. And these are important things. You want to know where the software comes from, what license, does it have security bugs? And there's no real good solution for that that would be free and open source software. So that's what we're trying to address as a challenge. So our approach, we're trying to make it easier to reuse open source code. And we're creating both tools and libraries with a focus essentially on primary data collection. It means collecting the raw material that can then be used for other purpose, or collecting and assembling primary data in database. So that means license, copyright, parsing package manifest. We tend to be pretty good at what we do, and it's actually because if we're not good, we won't do it. But we are pretty much considered as best in class for detection accuracy for license, copyright, and packages. And we also create data and specification to support this. Data, for instance, would be the data set that we have in scancode for licenses, which is probably the largest database of licenses you can find anywhere. Free and open source license, but also some proprietary. Or VulnerableCode, which builds a database of open well, an open database of open source known vulnerabilities for software packages. All right, so that's what we do. And we do open source tools to analyze code, basically. It's a domain that's generally known as software composition analysis. And as I said earlier, is want to know, is there third-party code, where it's coming from, what's the license, is it secure, maintained, well-coded? The key thrusts today are licensing and security, but eventually want to expand to the rest. And there's millions of them available, so it's really important to be able to understand how you get there. Now, who are we? So we have a fairly large user base, a small team that helps maintain, and a growing team of maintainers. Our tools are in many cases used by many other open source tools themselves as the basis for security and licensing and detection capabilities in their tools. Projects like ORT, Turn, OpenShift, Kdefine, OKOS all rely on our own tools to actually do, for instance, license detection and more. It's also used at major companies, like a very large search engine company, for instance, that you may have heard of. And we're trying also to build specification of, or support specification, and we are co-founders of SPDX and Package URL and several others. And we tend to be a fairly welcoming community, so many of you may be newcomers to open source. That's what we're looking for. And we'll try to usher you in a gentle way, in a benevolent way, to ensure that you can be successful and take part of the adventure. Our tech stack is primarily Python and JavaScript secondary. We use Postgres for data storage. We also use C, C++, and a bit of Go or Rust selectively for performance-sensitive area, by the way. And in terms of the techniques, there's a lot about natural language processing, text processing, some reverse engineering, some machine learning. But if you think about the domain of code analysis at large, that's all the techniques you need to do this, whether it's source code or binaries. This is the kind of things we do. All right. Now we're going to move to the presentation of our different project IDs. So first, Eyan, it's up to you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we maintain a list of project ideas which is present at the wiki of AboutCode. You can go there and see more information on your proposal and see all the project ideas that we have put together for you. It's not mandatory that you have to select a project from there, but this is what we are thinking ahead for our project. So they are organized in the separate projects, that's scancode.io, VulnerableCode, scancode-toolkit, and others. And in each project, they are sorted by priority. So there are first higher priority ideas, and then later there are medium priority ideas. And none of the priority ideas are like lower. All of them, like, that's why we just have higher and medium. And it is also specified in it that which length of they are. So the GSoC official project lengths are the large projects are 350 hours and the medium ones are 175 hours. So we have specified that also. And now we will present some key project ideas for each project. First, we have scancode.io and a little bit of background on scancode.io. So it's a server to script and automate the process of software composition analysis. It's based on Python, Django, and JavaScript for frontend. It's made for customization. So there are pipelines, which some of which are written by us, and it's made as is that anyone can write and design a pipeline for their own use case. So they are easily extendable. Now, the main features of these are that we can analyze Docker containers or VMs of uh, Linux distributions such as Debian RPM, and Alpine. And we also support Windows containers. So the scan data that we get from scanning all this is persistent in the database, and also you can see the results in a web UI and download the results whenever we want. This API is also a REST API which can be interfaced, and we also have a command line thing. So this can also scan single application packages or code bases also. And as we said, it's highly extendable, so you can integrate any other third-party tools in the pipeline. So what we are thinking about scancode.io, there's a project to improve the web UI experience. So now we have details on scanning, overview on what licenses, packages, etc. are detected, and some view for a list of all the resources, etc. But we need a better UI view that goes into specific details which are from scanning a single resource. So that's uh, one of the things. This will provide a more streamlined resource view, and yeah, it will important. It will have the important details, but not too much, and will still provide ways so that more views for looking at all the details. Now, also another thing is create a single web application to scan and review a single license text. This is what we call scancode.io as a service, and so we'll display the results such as so this will be a new Django app, so a bit different, so it can be interfaced elsewhere also, and it will provide feedback if the detection is not correct, and it eventually will also try to uh, fix those errors and create tools that will add those things to our knowledge base, so we get better direction on the next time. So also another ideas is SPDX and CycloneDX are two popular bill of materials formats. So we already have support for this in scancode-toolkit developed, and now we also want this integrated in scancode.io, and here we want to reuse this as much as possible. So okay, next we move on to scancode-toolkit. So this is our world's most popular open source code-based scanning engine. It's a standalone tool that can be run on the gapped environments and easy to install and supports all the major operating systems, Linux, macOS, and Windows. Um, it has the most accurate license detection engine, and supports a lot of major package manifest scanning and also system packages scanning. And we here it detects licenses, copyright, package manifest, dependencies, and looks at all other files and details. And it has results capabilities which are JSON, YAML, XLXS, SSCSV, and obviously SPDX, CycloneDX, as we were discussing. So now move on to the GSoC ideas that we have for scancode-toolkit. So scancode-toolkit does scanning of code bases. So there's a lot of data that is generated, and these data models that are there in scancode, uh, those are the same attributes that are there in the results. So we need a bit of documentation that sits there with the code tightly integrated, and that the documentation is automatically generated from these data attributes. So we use Sphinx and Docs for documentation. So there needs to be a way, probably with custom extensions, that will sort of merge these data that is there with the code and generate these uh, docs for data attributes. Next is enabling detection of private licenses. So a lot of the times there are users who have their own sometimes proprietary licenses, and they want to be able to run a scan with those private licenses included in the index, but not having to post them in scan code directly, obviously. And so we need a way to extend our license detection index to include these private rules, and so that's one project. And also, it would be nice to have a GitHub action that would create a SBOM, either SPDX or CycloneDX, and this is also important, as a lot of people would be able to uh, get SBOMs directly in GitHub from their projects or packages. So that's it for Scancode Toolkit. Our next project is Scancode Workbench. That's a UI in which is mostly written on Electron and JavaScript, and also supports all major OSs. And it's a UI for scancode toolkit and other about code tools, and it helps you to get quickly familiar with the scan. Uh, it is displayed in a code-based review, so you can quickly jump to the folders or files as necessary, and then you can filter them by values or by code-based elements. So that's a way to look at the scans and the data more usefully. And the results can be exported to a JSON or a database to persist them. And the major idea that we have is that we have to upgrade the workbench to have all the latest of packages. And as we have evolved our Scancode toolkit quite a bit over the last few months, we need workbench to catch up with that and fix some of the bugs related to that. And the conclusions module is currently being moved entirely to scancode.io, and we think that it's a better place for there. And so the workbench, we have to remove the conclusions module here, and we also have to look into possibilities of using TypeScript and other alternative UIs as Opusum UI, and also maybe see if the JavaScript, this can be a like Electron tool on Python native code. So those are mostly the ideas on the scan code, IO toolkit, and workbench. Next, we have vulnerable code, and Ritik will present us a bit about the project and the ideas.
Hey, Ritik.
Hey everyone. So I'm Ritik, and this project is VulnerableCode. This project is a free and open source vulnerabilities database. But the difference with all the other database out there aiming the same thing is that we focus on packages and not on vulnerabilities. So it makes sense that to find out which particular package is vulnerable to a list of vulnerabilities, in order for an attacker to attack a particular software or a package, and thus it also helps the defender to defend against those attacks. And vulnerable code works by scraping all the adversaries on the internet for open source packages, and creates a relationship between the packages and the vulnerabilities. Now, whenever you select a package that you have, then vulnerable code will let you know if that package has any open vulnerabilities or not. Do you need an update? Is an update required at all? Or can you just carry on with your current state of the package? Because updates are tough. Updates create a lot of problems while in a huge code base. And this was in the regard of one single package, but it works efficiently well when you take it to a host of dependencies where there are a lots of packages that your own package depends upon. And this is where vulnerable code comes into the picture and helps you find out all the outdated and vulnerable packages that you have. Now, doing all of this, we also encounter a lot of vulnerabilities that are out there, which are in a way unaccountable, or maybe some in the system. Maybe they are un- unseen vulnerabilities or vulnerabilities that were published but never properly were looked upon as an adversary inside an adversary. And with this, we find all of these words and quite in the literal word of the sense, make the world a better place by refining the weird adversaries that present in the world and provide a mechanism so that they can fix those words in their system and of course in our system as well. Now, vulnerable code is still a huge work in progress project. Whatever I said is our picture of vulnerable code, but we need a lot to implement in order to get to that picture. And there are a few GSoC ideas that we would love you to work on in order for vulnerable code to achieve its achievable heights. One would be the scan code integration. Now, vulnerable code can find the vulnerabilities associated with a package that are related to a package, but you do not want to manually query for every package. We already have scancode.io uh, gets the information of the package and where we can attach vulnerable code in order for it to simply work as a scancode.io scanner, and then the vulnerable code would be very easily consumable by downstream. Another idea would be something like one total. It's a kind of virus total style report where vulnerable code and other open source vulnerability scanners or in a way adversary scanners would work hand in hand and give each other all the reports where they are lacking on, and in that way vulnerable code and other projects would improve hand in hand. And of course we have a lot more ideas at the vulnerable code side. It is still in progress and we desperately need as many hands we can on the project. So stay tuned on our github.
Hey, thank you, Ritik. Next, that's you, Tushar.
Yeah. Package URL and universe. So universe is a library that's used to parse and compare all the versions. Like we can easily store and locate our versions there. So basically, the aim of this project is that our universe library can handle all the versions and ranges of all the packages. So vulnerable code is a major consumer of universe. So there we store the affected packages. So we want that we can validate universe there. And package it's a great way to store and identify all the packages. So you can in package URL you can go from URL to package URL, and you can also go from package URL to URL. So basically, the aim of this project is that to provide a Chrome or Firefox extension to support browsing package URL, that you can enter a package URL and it will route you to homepage URL of that package. And
Okay, so that's
yeah,
next is fetch code.
yeah. So fetch code is a library that's used to fetch code via HTTP and BCS. You can provide any HTTP, FTP, or BCS based URL, and you will get that code, right. And it can also fetch data from various package registries there. So basically, the goal of this project is to automatically fetch code archives. Like you will feed a Perl there, and it will automatically fetch code archives for you. So yeah, that's from my side.
All right. Next up.
Now
Moses.
yeah,
Go ahead.
now we'll talk a bit about what we expect from aspiring GSoC contributors. So firstly, we want you to succeed. We want successful projects that would be helpful for both us and for you as you learn a lot along these. And so the main three things that we want you to focus on are looking at the technical skills that are required, and then you need to communicate a lot about what you're going through and what's happening on your side. And then you need to also put together a good proposal so we know what your plans are with the project and make sure you can follow through. Now let's talk a bit in details about these. So the technical skills, yeah. So you need to. Uh, so there are a lot of good first issues that we have specifically uh, tagged the issues with in all our projects. So if you want to dip your toes in and look at the code bases or try to fix some bugs, and so here is where you go to find these, and don't be afraid to take a shot. It will help you there where required. And here you uh, need to understand the problem and the coding question, the issue you are solving, and why the issue is being caused, what you can do to fix it, and then you try exactly that. And here, if you ask specific questions, we can try to help you and point you towards actions or code or other things that you need to fix it. And you also need to use Git and GitHub to open up PR and go through all of the version control system and collaboration tools that you have um, to make this contribution usable and that it can be accepted and merged. So you also need to look at if you are applying for a proposal or a project that you have ideas of for what exact skills that are required for the project, and make sure that you have the basic skills required there. And next, what we have is communication and collaboration. So here, communication is important throughout the all the steps in GSoC. So you have to first plan your approach and tell us ahead of time what your approach will be, when you're going to be available, if uh, if at all uh, you have any plans that will hamper or like any time that you will be off for a couple of days, and then if you are stuck somewhere implementing your project or anywhere you need help from us, you need to constantly communicate that with us so we know and we can help there. And when you are working on any issues and PRs, we'll provide a lot of feedback, and there you need to uh, discuss them and make sure that they are addressed and issued. And then you have to also, if you have any uh, specific communication with respect to the issues or anything, make sure you stick to the private channels or GitHub issues if you're trying to discuss that with the community. And now, in terms of a great proposal, you need to explain your project and what approach you are taking, your implementation, etc., in great details. So we know that you understand both the problem and the solution, and you are able to follow through and finish it. Then also one important aspect is to break your project into subtasks and make sure that you create a nice estimate of how long it should take and what are the specific deliverables for each of these subtasks. So this also helps you to plan ahead in more details and makes it easier for you not to procrastinate and finish it. So now you also have to draft your proposal uh, as early as possible and ideally a week or two ahead of the submission date, and share it with the community and specifically with mentors in a public place. So then you will get a lot of valuable feedback from maintainers and mentors on what you're doing right, if you need to make any changes, and what we think of the proposal. So yeah, these are the main things you need to get correct in your GSoC application phase. Now we have put through a list of previous project reports and some proposal examples. We'll share these links with you. And there's few other things you need to get right. You need to brush up on your Git skills. You need to be able to perform basic Git operations like merge, rebase, and amend with ease. And because these are not things that will walk you through, you need to also write good commit messages and make sure you abide by our standards, and we'll share links for these too. And you also have to ask great questions. It's always better to ask a detailed, specific question rather than open-ended, broad question. Let's say you can ask, where can I find the code responsible for doing this, in place of asking, explain how scan code works to me. So that's something me to keep in mind. Ask great questions. That helps us to answer your questions better and faster. And we'll share some links on that too.
Great.
What you can expect from us. So you can surely expect a lot of mentorship and guidance from our side. We surely pushing towards you, like you can merge your PR, and we will always be giving time. We having timely interaction with you guys, and we'll surely review your PRs very much frequently, and so pushing you towards the best practices. So like you write your code only once and it's read many times. So we want that when you write some code, like and someone reads it, so they should be able to get what you meant at that time. It will not only help others, but it will also help the future you to understand that code. And we always point you towards the best resource which can help you to solve a particular issue, and there will be a lot of learning in this somewhat. So yeah, you can expect a lot of learning from us.
Great. Ritik.
Well, with all the things that you can expect from us, there are quite a few things that you cannot expect from us as well, which would include immediate response 24 hours 7. Well, you might be very much familiar with getting immediate DMs and responses to your queries, but this is not how the open source works. So it might take a day or maybe even two for you to get a response. And you know what? That is actually a good point. While we are taking our time to respond to you, you can do your research and add to the question and maybe improve your question itself. And then who knows, you might be able to solve the problem by yourself without our help. And if you need the help even after 2 days, be sure we will respond to you in time, but we will. Private communication on issues. This is open source and we do every code changes publicly. And all the issues we handle are public. So it is less likely for us to respond to your direct messages or do any private communication at all, if that is not very personal. So if you're going for something, you are confused about a code, if there is an issue that you have raised that has not been addressed, or maybe your PR has not been yet reviewed, you do not want to send us a direct message or at message. You can maybe tag us, or you can maybe talk on the general channel, but a direct message would be a big no in a seemingly public conversation. And last but not the least, we will not Google it for you. It might be very rude for us to say that, but do understand, when you get selected in the project and when you are working with our various projects, then you will realize there are a lot of things that you need to get addressed, and you really need a search engine, a good search engine where you can simply search your questions, dig deep in, and find out your answers by yourself. So try your best, find the best questions and their good answers. And in the end, if you cannot, we will help you and we will find it together.
Great. So that's pretty much it. We've put QR codes for the links to AboutCode and our GitHub repositories. We really look forward to your participation, and we'll take questions now. If you want to join on our chat room, you can ask any questions and we'll be there to answer. We may not answer right away, but we will eventually answer. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful day.